So in this program is done by Reswell. Reswell started more than 3 years ago. We are now 40 researchers and academic collaborating in with the University of Tel Aviv, which uh, cooperated with me to create that group. This group is made for VUCA because we have found that there is a kind of PTSD, social PTSD, which is called VUCA, which is basically something, which is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, hyperconnectivity. Because hyperconnectivity, the phone, the tablet, we are now in real time more than maybe some people do more than 18 hours a day, and it has some negative impact. So this group is working on how can we reduce the effect of VUCA, and the answer is we don't reduce VUCA, but we can develop resilience to VUCA. And that's what we have been doing together. And now it's something more recognized, but it is a form of PTSD. We have also the Mental Wellness Society. The Mental Wellness Society, as of today, is 440 members. I see that Dr. Wallace joined us too. Congratulations, Dr. Wallace, on the TAF Day. And we are now more than 5 million views a month and 3,000 posts a month. And we are between 5,000 members growing every month. So that's what is happening with our group. So I want to speak a few minutes about Dr. Donkin. I met Dr. Donkin in 1998. I was in a show in Las Vegas about health, and somebody told me, you need to meet Dr. Donkin. So I came back, I spoke with him, we spoke, sent him a plane ticket, and I invited him to become the health and wellness consultant for Carnegie Mellon University. I received a grant of 18 million from Congress for developing the Carnegie Mellon Driver Training and Safety Institute. So we had cutting edge technology and extraordinary learning curve. It was a straight line. But we realized that the knowledge retention and long-term behavior did not change much, and it was still inadequate. So we asked Dr. Donkin, under his leadership, we established a comprehensive health and wellness center on our campus. And in just 3 weeks, we observed remarkable transformation of our truck driver behaviors. Much of impulsivity, antisocial conduct disappeared, and we later discovered that over 90% of our truck driver, had undiagnosed ADHD. That was a very interesting discovery because many truck drivers become truck drivers because of their ADHD. So the improvement in retention, self-regulation, well-being, and attitude towards sharing the road with others were extraordinarily improved. So we had to research, and we need to research and we discovered an important insight. Combining vagus nerve stimulation with cognitive training produce a lasting behavioral change. And that was more than 25 years ago, a big discovery. We have continued to work on that since then. And it became an approach that we completely explore after 2000. So Scott and I, we authored a book, Peak Performance for Body and Mind. And we have remained friends, and we cooperate in health, well-being, and resilience since that. But recently, after so many years of so many books that Scott has been writing, so many consulting companies consulting, so many clients, patients he sees 1,200 visits per month that he is personally attending. He realized that he discovered that a bone called the ischiopubic ramus had a very special function that I would say God created us with a special bone, and it was a bone until Dr. Donkin researched and discovered that this bone has not only kinetic function, but also a cognitive function. And he will explain you that today. And I think it's remarkable to see a chiropractor to teach us psychologists how we can help people to get better cognition. But it's exactly the course of what he has. So his role in healthy sitting is important for the ischiopubic ramus. And Scott is proposing a very significant implication for regeneration, posture, cognitive performance, and most importantly, resilience. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Donkin, and I will ask Dr. Donkin to take over with his screen. So I need to do stop share. I need to give Dr. Donkin. Ah, Mrs. Lee, how are you? You are in Spain today? Okay. Dr. Donkin will become co-host, and now Dr. Donkin can present. Dr. Donkin, you can take over the screen.
Okay, we're doing the process of doing that now.
You do full screen.
Yep. Can you see?
Can you see okay?
Yes, we can.
Before you do that, there is a video to show. So will you show the video, Scott?
Let me scroll.
That's on
Yes.
slide.
There we go. So can you see the screen now?
Very good. Go on.
Okay.
Show the video.
You learn to read. You learn to write. Who taught you to sit? Nobody did. And yet you'll spend nearly a third of your life doing it daily. So we changed the chair, but never questioned the skill. Watch. Position 1, slumped sitting. Position 2, upright sitting. And now, power sitting. It's not your fault. It's no one's. You were just never taught. So I put it all in here. Reclaim your clarity, energy, comfort, posture, performance, confidence, control, well-being. Power sitting, the new art of sitting, now available at power-sitting.com.
PowerSitting has been awarded the prestigious seal of approval from the Mental Wellness Society.
Mind Real Studios, where psychology meets storytelling.
Okay, so that video was actually all produced in AI. So that's not me. That's my according to the programming is my avatar. So was really a surreal experience putting that together, and that condenses a lot of information into a short period of time. And I am delighted to be here to share with you my journey through the year through the decades as a student of sitting. And I was reflecting back a little bit earlier, Gerard, on our getting together, and I remember that you being a psychologist had a focus on the mind and the brain. And then me as a chiropractor, I had a focus on the brain and the body. And our meeting point was the brain. And we always appreciated, in concept, mind and body. But as we work more closely together, we understand the fusion of the two, mind and body, through the brain, if you will, can have profound impacts on people's health, well-being, and resilience. And all those things that we talked about or that were listed in the video. I hope to be able to accomplish in this brief hour. So we have a lot to do, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to share. So thank you for this opportunity. If we look at the chair, this chair in this slide, and we're all familiar with VUCA, it occurred to me as I learned more about VUCA that there's actually, VUCA isn't just a cloud that is an image. It's actually all around us. It's actually in us, and it's in everything, a lot of things that we encounter in a day. And there's plenty of VUCA in sitting. Plenty of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and hyperconnectivity. And we'll get into that in just a moment. And I believe that if we simmer down the VUCA of sitting and it becomes a platform for change, that we can use the success that we develop in eliminating the VUCA of sitting to apply it in other areas of our lives and truly integrate solutions so that we can all enjoy the process of developing resilience and well-being in ourselves and also the people that are within our spheres of influence. So to begin with, I want to make sure that everybody knows this is not a replacement for any type of diagnostic or treatment of any kind. It's meant to help ourselves first and then also the people that we care for. And anytime that you have questions, I want to be here to be able to help support you. And we'll develop a little community or maybe a large community because it is a global problem. And sitting, my objective with sitting is to make for humans, for the people on the planet, sitting health positive instead of health negative. That's putting it quite simply. And this is definitely a step in that direction as we share and learn together. So opening questions would be, how many of you are sitting right now? It's kind of an interesting subject because most of us are sitting right now and we can experience some of the things we're going to be talking about while sitting. And in our career in learning, we spend a lot of time in learning how to become a psychologist or a researcher or whatever, or a chiropractor or someone else in one of these related fields. To learn how to do what we do, but we've never been taught that same thing about how to sit. It's bypassed us. And we'll get into why in just a moment here. It becomes a big blind spot in humanity because we've never been taught, and the needs for sitting have changed exponentially since we first started to sit as humans, as Homo sapiens, which was by definition, to rest upon the buttocks or haunches. But we don't use sitting for just that anymore. We use, actually, modern civilization runs while sitting. And sitting is the most prominent posture. It's what we operate our lives from to a large extent at this point in time. And therefore, when we use sitting for ways and other than it was physiologically designed to rest, then there's a day of reckoning, if you will, at which then, because we're not using sitting in the way that it was originally intended, that we run into trouble physically and mentally because there's a mismatch in the way we're using it. So all of these things, from thinking to learning to research to traveling, require sitting, or that we do them while sitting. So if we can actually do some things while we're doing these other things, we don't have to eliminate doing these things. If we change certain things, then we can get a different outcome. It's just like if it's an equation and we look at the right side of the equation with the way people sit in the outcome, it's not a desirable outcome. So we have to change some elements of the left side of the equation in order to create a different outcome. And they are very doable. So we already talked about this, that VUCA is around us, but it's actually, when we run into a situation that we are uncertain about or have complexity about, then it creates a mental, then physiologic response. And we deal with the physiologic response. And so that's why eliminating how we have an attitude towards this process can actually change the outcome as well. So the modern sitting demand mismatch I attempted to put into this slide. Our understanding of sitting has remained the same, yet the ways we use sittings has increased exponentially. And so this gap between the yellow line and the blue line is what happens as the fallout for us not being able to go up to speed with our sitting and modern physical demands of our life. And then that gap creates dis-ease and ill health, lack of resilience, and the items that we want to actually solve. So today we're going to talk about some things to understand sitting, remove the complexity and ambiguity and volatility, and then we will move on to how do we apply it in our life. So many are researchers in this group, and I always appreciate researchers because it's the quest for the truth that is behind the research. And I am after truth as well. And once truth is more and more identified, then to not just share it, but to implement it so that everybody involved in the process, in this case sitting, is the beneficiary. So here's a slide that summarizes VUCA. If we'll just review it, volatility, rapid, often unpredictable change that disrupts stability and requires continuous adaptation. So that's the summary. So with sitting, the volatility of sitting was the functional demands placed upon, I have to remove this just a little bit here, have changed, like we talked about in that other slide. And so the volatility is the fact that things changed underneath our seats and we didn't adapt accordingly. And so we have a maladaptive situation with us and sitting. The uncertainty is when you go to address a seat subconsciously because you don't know how to consciously evaluate it, you're uncertain about your own particular outcome. With what am I getting into when I sit? I don't know how to evaluate this chair, and I don't understand how I'm going to be sitting in this to prevent what problems I'm going to be developing or problems that I have. And subconsciously, we have this complexity because it's just not understood. The complexity of sitting is we use it in so many ways. It's how is it that we know what to do and when to do it? And so simplicity is required to be an antidote for complexity. Ambiguity is the presence of information whose meaning or interpretation remains unclear. We're not sure what information is right for us. We say this is the best chair. This is no, this is the best chair, or this is the best seat. And what are the criteria for that? It's actually pretty simple. So clearing the air is something I believe that we can accomplish with sitting. Hyperconnectivity, we're connected to devices and the world around us and people, but mostly we're connected to the chair. See, our seat meets the seat of the chair. So that's the other element of hyperconnectivity that we're dealing with here. And that is the seed for change, the seed for solution, if you will, where our seat meets the seat. That is where amazing things can happen if we put our mind to it and our bodies as well. Just a moment here. I'm not able to advance it for some reason here.
Need to click on your pop-on. Yeah, now you are.
Okay, so when I say nobody is just sitting, sitting looks like it is not active, yet your mind is constantly working most of the time while you're sitting. Your brain actively is. Your heart beats, your body digests, you breathe, your body is actively regulating itself. So sitting is not a physically quiet activity. There's something going on all the time with sitting. Okay, so then the compounding effect of hyperconnectivity is that the hyperconnectivity magnifies everything. We kind of touched on that in a couple slides earlier, but because of that hyperconnectivity magnifying everything, we can use that hyperconnectivity to help solve everything as well. It's kind of like Aikido. You use Aikido, the opponent's forces, you use those forces for your benefit. And so we can use the forces at hand with sitting to actually work for us. So when we talk about the sitting and we don't know how to sit or slump or upright, a lot of common side effects are decision fatigue, mental exhaustion, fragmented attention, stress, reduced performance. All of those, they sound intangible, but they're really real inside our lives. And so these are real things that if you personally know how to measure those things, you could be able to measure change in the things that we're talking about today. So the question is, how do we, not how do we remove every challenge, it's how do we increase adaptive capacity? So for example, if you mentally think about how many chairs you sit in a week, you go through your morning ritual of getting ready for the day, you're going through travel, you go through your work week, you know, sitting in one place or meetings or whatever, and then you go into your leisure time and you isolate how many seats you sit in a week. For many people that I survey in my office, it's 10 to 20. All right. So we understand rather quickly, especially in public transportation, we can't buy the best seat all the time. We can't buy the best chair. So the better question is, how can I use my own agency to figure out how I'm going to sit in that chair so that I can control the outcome? So when you look at a chair as what its function is and what you're going to be using it for and how long or how many repetitions, then you can figure out how important it is to use a certain sitting style. And the answer is that the problems with sitting, one of the answers is that it's technique driven. And we usually only understand two postures in sitting, slumped and upright. And we don't even know there's the third one that is probably the most powerful one of all, that if we tap into that, it helps us solve the dilemma that we're facing now. So for the purpose of this discussion, reclining, kneeling, and squatting are not sitting, okay? And so sitting is on a seat pan for the purposes of our discussion. Okay, recline is actually halfway between sitting and laying down. So and a lot of people do that, but let's define sitting for what it is, and then we'll move forward. So these images are taken from my first book, Sitting on the Job, that I first published in 1987. So it's about 40 years ago, but it's still relevant today. So if we look at the standing person, forces of gravity go through the body, and then our contact with the ground is our 2 feet. All right. With sitting, we have the 2 feet and the seat or our posterior thighs right here. Okay, so in standing, it's just 2 of these oblong pancakes that all of our weight is being borne upon. Here we have some sharing of the force here and right along here. With laying down, you have the entire contour of your body, whether you're laying down or on your back. That's our contact with earth, with the ground. And so it also is our relationship with gravity and the earth that we need to negotiate. So with standing and sitting, which was sitting we'll be focusing on right now, the definition has been to rest upon the buttocks or haunches. And that definition, individually and collectively, we need to replace with something that's more appropriate for our modern times. Because if we define things properly, then we have a better chance of collectively solving the issue. So my proposal is that we shift it to something like to execute tasks while in the seated position. And that is whether you're being still, or you're operating a motor vehicle, or you're a passenger, or you're watching a sporting event, whatever it is, you're executing tasks. And so to understand that it's active is a key element of solving the entire issue. Now this, I know many people aren't versed with x-rays. We're not going to spend a lot of time here, but I have to spend a little time. This here is called the ischial complex. And right here is the ischial tuberosity. And that's what we're commonly think of contacting when we sit, all right? But when you look at this standing x-ray, and this is what I just discovered over a decade ago when I was analyzing x-rays, I'm going, that ischial tuberosity is more vertical than it is horizontal. All right, so in the standing body, if that is the case, then this isn't the way that sitting is done. So if this is the ischial tuberosity, this is the ischiopubic ramus. The ischiopubic ramus is actually more parallel with the seating surface than the ischial tuberosity. Now, if we go back to this slide, we see that this is weight bearing, and this is weight bearing, and so is this. So what I also learned is that this is just like the x-ray. This is the ischial tuberosity. This is the ischiopubic ramus. When you rock backward, that's when you're slumping. Okay? When you rock forward, then you're more in a position that gives you proper alignment from your body up. Okay? And so I discovered that this is the key to changing the way you sit. It's right here. It's not in between the shoulders. It's not just the head. This is the prime mover. You master this, then you master your sitting skill. It's a skill. It isn't just this cloud of what we do when we're doing other things. It's a skill. The other thing I learned with weight bearing is that this is the other weight bearing part. And if you look right here, that is strangely similar to the bone that we sit on, okay? And no, with walking, we have heel strike, and then we move to stance phase. Heel strike to stance phase. If you try to stand on the back part of your heel, it's very awkward and it's imbalanced. But when you do this, then you're in a powerful position for stance. That is weight-bearing stance. And the angle of this bone right here is similar to right there. Okay, so we have built within us in our design of the body, weight-bearing here and weight-bearing here. Okay, right now we've been using this more than we should, because when we started to use it for other things, we needed to do this. We never knew it. I just happened to be discovering it because I'm this student of sitting, and it became clearer and clearer the more days and weeks and months and years and decades that I've been trying to understand and unravel these secrets so that I can share them. I think from a brain science, it's called pattern recognition. And so that's where I'm at. Then it becomes a situation of how is it that you implement it with people so that they can get real world results. These are x-rays of me. And I know this was taken many years ago, so it's actually the film that we use instead of digital x-rays. But look, this first one, the standing x-ray, the angle of my sacrum is 32 degrees. That's what was optimum for me with standing. When I slump, that angle where the sacrum is goes back like this. That makes the platform of the sacrum 16 degrees, and that flattens my low back. If I sit upright, which is what most people think is proper sitting, the angle is only 22 degrees. So when I force my body to simulate this standing, then I discovered something different. Then I understood when I do that, my whole upper body changes. The kinetic chain plays like gears. Okay, when the pelvis moves, the back arches, the chest comes up, the shoulder blades move together in the back, and the collarbones level out, the head comes up over the shoulders. How many times I've worked with this with patients, it is a predictable biomechanical event to when you shift your pelvis far enough into that unknown territory, that is where the treasure of sitting is. So we're going to be going through this together in just a moment. So just to reiterate on this X-ray, it was one of the X-rays that I was first discovered back in this whole process. Number one is the ischial tuberosity. Number two is the ischiopubic ramus right there. This number three is the transition between the two, which is right there between the wide part and the narrow part. I call that the inferior ischial tubercle, or the it factor in sitting. And then number four is the superior ischiopubic ramus, which this undersurface is what we're most concerned with what we're talking about today. There we go. Okay, so the way it looks, and you can, I love the slumping is the red light because we overuse that and it gets us into trouble. The upright is good as a yellow indicator because we're still the caution area, but we're better than slumping, okay? And then the power sitting is something that actually is a green light for us physiologically. And the reason that cognition comes into this is because we have to consciously, in our mind, activate our brain to change our body to do these things. So it becomes a fusion of mind-body. And that's why, from a psychologist's point of view, this is important. And from someone that's a neuromusculoskeletal practitioner, it's important to understand how the mind works with this whole cognitive process in order to make it stick as a actual change in the habit. Okay, so you can also use parentheses, reverse parentheses to describe slumping. And then the upright, like capital I as the upright. And then the power would be the other part of the parentheses, where the curve inward of the spine. So every time you look at your keyboard, you might use this as a visual cue as to the body position. So what we've learned so far is there is a possibility. There's this other part of sitting we didn't know before that now we can try to start to implement. But we have to implement it gradually because, quite frankly, we've developed our whole life not doing this intentionally. We might have accidentally done it, but we didn't know what we were doing. Now I want to be able to insert the conscious use of this for regular daily life. So then in chairs, for some reason subconsciously, we look at the chair and what we see is the backrest. So the backrest becomes the focus of the chair when actually it's not the focus of sitting. The focus of sitting is the seat pan. Shifting from backrest to seat pan is pivotal in being able to make these changes. So now when you look at something you're going to be sitting on, you look at the seat pan and not the backrest. That removes ambiguity, if you will. All right. Now, unless acceleration is used in sitting, the backrest is not the primary objective, not the primary target of fit. The seat pan is. And actually, you can sit on a seat pan in many different ways. It doesn't have to be perfectly designed or whatever. You have to be able to know that I can change my sitting position, get a different outcome, no matter what I sit on. You might want to use assistive devices, which, cushions and wedges and padding and things like that, which is very helpful because this bone right here that we sit on, the ischiopubic ramus, is long and narrow. It's not wide and flat. And so pressure can build up and then become uncomfortable if you're not aware of it. So now that you're aware of it, you can say, well, it's not because that position is bad. It's just because maybe I need something underneath it. And then you can find solutions. So what's happening is we're shifting locus of control for sitting from the chair to the person. And as Gerard, you just mentioned yesterday, when you shift to internal locus of control, you start to diffuse VUCA. So everything is, I choose to sit in a different way, a way that serves me. I can sit on any seat better now. I can choose. I have that choice. I have that agency. And because I am going to make something health positive that was health negative for me before, that's an element of resilience, bouncing back from adversity. You see, sitting has been an adverse situation for most of humans for quite a while now. And we're going to shift that to something different, which is, in my opinion, right in line with what Reswell is all about. So now we're going to go through this demonstration, and I like to use there we go. So I like to use maybe a little bit lower. Okay, so I'm just sitting on this stool here. And so I'm going to go through the different positions. One is slumping, one is upright, and then the other is the power sitting, which is arching your back a little more. We'll do that together, and then I'll show you how I do it in the clinic, okay? So go ahead and, if you're sitting in a chair that isn't an overstuffed couch or something, just sit in the middle of the seat pan, and then go ahead and slump back. Thank you. And then feel where your seat is underneath your pockets, where that bone is, okay? Settle in on that bone, and then arch your back a little bit like you're going into upright sitting, and feel the shift in that particular pressure. You're going off of one thing onto something else, and you just rock back and forth that way. Okay, and then you go arch a little bit more. And then what happens is your head comes up, your chest comes up, your shoulder blades will want to move backward if you let your arms relax. And then sit there for a minute in the upright position. So I've learned in my office to give people that grace for a few seconds. And I don't really, I believe it's the brain reorganizing to a novel experience. There's something there that it's just important to give people a little space for, and let their brain do what it's going to do, because it's different, but it's oddly familiar. And I'm not sure why that is, because we never really learned this before, but I think it's oddly familiar because that's the way you want to stand. And now your body and because you're negotiating gravity, and that must be the way that you want to sit now. Now, you don't have to sit in this position all day long. It's hard to do, as you mentioned before, Gerard, it's hard to use computer work. But what you do is you sit in the position that you need to do your task, maybe organize it better if you can, but you get into this position regularly throughout the day. Okay, you go from here to here, and then because you haven't been doing it, because your body's been conditioned to not doing it, then a lot of times there might be stiffness or soreness or something that develops, not because it's bad, but because your body has to get reconditioned or used to it. And so if you have any questions about that, then please let me know so that I can continue to be supportive of the changes that you are wanting to make. I love to work with the willing, and people that are willing to make changes to help themselves and then help others. I am all in on that. So I'll show you now what it looks like. And as a psychologist or a researcher, you don't need to do the physical part of it like I do. I'll just show you how I do it. But you can actually go through the exercise with other people once you learn it yourself, exactly what I've shown you. Okay. All right, so go ahead and have a seat here, Elizabeth. Yeah. So I'll actually put my shoulder against the spine here and I'll rock the pelvis back. I'll work the pelvis like this. I'll rock it back and say, this is slumping, this is upright, this is power. So I'll go back and I'll say, go up and back. Feel where you're sitting on that seat bone. And this is how you usually spend your seated life. Now I want you to arch a little bit more and then rock your pelvis a little bit more so that it's even more pronounced. And you see what happens if you watch her back and then up, the whole upper body makes a shift. And now I know this is the prime mover because if I fix the pelvis, go ahead and try to slump. And so she can't. Now go ahead and try to slump. So as soon as she rocks her pelvis, then she can slump. By that same token, if you do that, your body coordinates the activity. And you have to do that through your frontal cortex, which you have to think about it in order to make the change, which is the beauty of it. There again, it's a fusion of mind and body. Okay, thank you.
And when you have that position, you breathe better. And if you
Yes.
breathe better, you have more oxygen in the brain. And
Uh-huh.
you exchange better oxygen and you control better your brain wave. So that's
Yes,
where it's a complete cognitive system.
Let's accentuate that just a little bit, Jordan. I'm glad you brought that up. Go ahead and slump again. Go ahead and slump your bodies again and breathe in.
Difficulty to breathe.
And then go ahead and go into upright.
And you can feel clarity in the head.
Yeah.
Instead of the pressure in the system.
Right, because it has a brain activity effect.
Yeah, and I also think the angle on the vagus nerve pinch kind of the vagus nerve.
Or stretch,
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to be learned yet. So this isn't the end chapter in sitting or solving sitting. This is a launching pad for the solution, though. I believe that, and that we solve it together is what we do. And so when you go into the power sitting position and you breathe in and out, you see that's a different ballgame. There's ease with that. And so all of these factors point in the direction of you working to adopt it. And so I hope that is the case. So when I go over this in the clinic with my patients, I get comments like, I feel taller. I feel a little more alert. I feel more stable. It's a stable feeling when you do that because you're squarely on your pelvis and on the bones that actually support the upright seated position. I could breathe easier, which is what we went through. So adaptive capacity. Right now, we're in a maladaptive situation with the seat, with chairs, because we just are that way. So in order to adapt, then we have to use this skill in order to see what it is that I'm going to be sitting on in a different way. Now you can actually look at a chair in a bus or a subway, and you go, well, I don't have to slump in that chair. I actually can sit a little different. And just because the backrest is a flat doesn't mean your body has to conform to it. You can still rock your pelvis and arch your back and have space in there and still be better off because of it. You can do that. I do that when I'm driving in my vehicle too. Especially if I'm on longer distance, I change my body position so that the pressure never accumulates or stays in one spot. So movement is essential. And then the other thing that comes up is what about standing? Okay, standing is great. And you wanted me to touch on this, George. So standing is great. But here's what I found. I found that people that stand a lot seek to sit. And people that sit a lot seek to stand. So what they want is a transition between the two. That's movement. Okay, so if we go back to the other slide with the standing position and the feet are small and our body weight goes all the way over that has some inherent problems when you do it for a long period of time, especially with poor fitting shoes and things like that. But if we know that the transition between the two is important, so then you can use that intelligently. A sit-stand station, you don't sit for half the day and stand for half the day. You move it, and that gives you a better position. And you can actually stand in a more powerful standing position as well you can a more seated position. And then that way you take control of your physical well-being. And because you're doing that, and because you're exercising agency, I think that's improves your mental well-being as well.
You also taught me that we memorize bad position, and the bad position become an habit, and that's why we need to make a cognitive effort to reprogram in a positive way.
Right.
But on then, when it's positive, it becomes a positive attitude because you repeat and repeat. But as you said, it's a skill, and yes, definitely, we memorize a lot of bad positions.
Yeah. In my mind, and actually I said this in my TED Talk, habit is an acronym for helpful or harmful automatic behavior increasing over time. And so what we're doing is we're bringing sitting up because it's a habit. It's subconscious. It's automatic. We're bringing it up to awareness, figuring out how to change it, and then through repetition, then it becomes second nature. So you don't always have to be consumed by your sitting position all the time. It's actually kind of fun. You can analyze a chair in a second. It's like that. Once you have a little practice at it, and then you can figure out how you're going to sit. Now, all chairs are not created, I don't think, very well, for long term. For short term, that's what they're designed for, but you have the power to determine, what your outcome is. And so,
15 minutes.
okay. The body is not merely where adaptation is expressed. The body is one of the primary mechanisms through which adaptation is learned. And so we're learning adaptation through this common daily activity that we may spend a third of our day doing. And you can see how mastering that, getting a grip or handle on that, can transfer over to the rest of your day. And one of the things that I psychologically see is that people sitting better looks different. All right. Because it is different, because if you want a different outcome, you have to do something different. All right. And because most people don't know this, looking at someone that's doing power sitting looks a little different. So you have to understand that going in to it, that you have to get through the discomfort of that in order to be able to claim the agency of it, and that just is something to be aware of, because sometimes I've noticed with patients that might be a reason not to implement. And so I don't want that to happen to you. So the adaptive capacity, environmental change and capacity determines the amount of stress or less stress. So we can't predict what always is changing in our environment, but we can predict and we can control a way to adapt to it, and in a way that is our choosing. And then we have a different outcome. Less stress, more stress. We all of a sudden understand, well, there's a difference in the outcome if I do this. And that's very powerful in my opinion. So if we look at agency and clarity, intentionality, these are all things that help to undermine the power that VUCA seems to have over us. All right. So to slay the dragon, if you will, information and action is, the sword and the shield that we have. And then the payoff is the well-being and the resilience that we enjoy, because it's really enjoyable to turn a weakness to a strength. That's really an element of transformation, in my opinion. So that we use this for sitting, but then it goes over into other elements. So suppose the confidence that you develop in being able to make this shift can transfer to leadership. It can transfer to helping yourself become healthier physically and mentally. It can help. I recommend first we do this ourselves, and then we share it in certain ways with others. And if you need help with helping yourself, I'm here. If you need tools to help you share it with others, I am here. And I know Gerard is as well. And so you have support all the way along the way to use sitting as a platform for a transformational change for yourself and then others around you. And then my objective is to make it global as well. But it has to start somewhere. So it starts where your seat meets the seat. So again, the question is, not how do we build better chairs, but how do we develop better sitters? And where does sitting begin? You know, sitting begins when we're well, infants, but then we go to school. And then we learn those skills. We learn bad behaviors, not because it's taught, but because it's untaught. And then we model our behavior after those we see. You know, the adults in our lives are teachers, as well as our own family, and then in society. And so we believe that to be true. So there's some cognitive shifting that takes place in breaking through those invisible barriers, because I don't think they're physical barriers. I think they're invisible, but sometimes those can be the strongest ones. And so that's why people will need help through that process to getting into a better place and a better state. So if we follow this scenario, that the chair is the smallest environment in which you can make change. So Dr. Wallach, I see you're doing things a little differently there. I like that. And so Isaac, I see that as well. So, and Gerard, I notice your clavicles are changing a bit too. And Skylar, I don't see her right yet, but
Collarbone.
yeah. So the chair becomes a laboratory, the body becomes the instrument, the awareness becomes the method, and the intentional practice becomes the pathway. Adaptation becomes a process, and resilience is the outcome. So there is a predictable path that I have noticed with my patients, and I'm very excited to be able to share this with interdisciplinary in nature, so that because it's going to take all of us in our own ways to work together in order to make changes happen. So actually, I will pass that time right now, Gerard. So do you have any
That's
questions?
okay. That's okay. You can go on.
So I have, what are future directions in the VUCA sitting there? Can adaptive capacity be measured through embodied practice? I would like to know and get feedback on measurement, so that because you could get really good at what you can measure, and then the evidence, we need to have more evidence from other angles in order to make some of the changes that we're talking about stick for humanity. Well, how do we quantify how this can improve cognitive flexibility and emotional regulation, decision quality? I see those in myself. I see it with my patients. I know it to be true. I haven't measured yet. I don't know. So I need your help, in this endeavor. Can brief embodied intervention strengthen resilience under VUCA conditions? That's a fair question. I think I think positively on that one. Could there become a standardized laboratory for studying human adaptation? That's a question beyond the scope of what we're going to talk about today. And how scalable is this? Well, I know it's scalable, but how is it best done in a scalable way?
May I say something?
Yeah.
We have developed 20 years ago, 25 years ago, a quarter century, a questionnaire about mind on body questionnaire that we have on the mindful choice analytics section, automated analytics. And this mind on body test is still valid today, very useful. And I have found that many clients I am helping, which have anxiety, self-doubt, all type of mental stage, I have found that by teaching them to improve their mind and body, basically the wellness situation they have, teach them to have a grip on themselves and by what they learn to do by having a grip, because they can see visually. You don't see what is in your head, but you can see how it goes in your body immediately. When they can control that, they immediately improve and change. So on every client, patient, I see that when they become conscious, that they can make a change willingly, cognitively, not emotionally, but cognitively. At that moment, they have learned a skill they can transpose in the whole psychological process. And you start with that. So this test that we have online is really very interesting because at the same time we see them improve because we have a before and after. We see them improving on the psychological issue and tremendously improving on the health and wellness. So there is there a direct visible application. I'm sorry, I let you continue.
Oh, great. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate all input, and that was particularly valuable. I do want to add one thing, and that is, again, because the body's been used to doing things in a certain way, the mind can make a change in a moment, but it takes time for the body to catch up. So if you're noticing something that you have a question about, then definitely reach out because it is using your body in a different way than what it's been conditioned to be. And so that's why gradual use of this is very helpful. In fact, if what the assignment that I usually give people is to practice this movement, the slumping, the upright, and then the power, holding and lingering onto the power position for a couple seconds, and then going back and doing 5 repetitions, but doing that several times through the day to start to get the body used to that kind of movement. And then know that this is one of the things I encountered, especially early on with patients, and that is I'll teach them how to sit, and then they go out into the world and they go, "Oh my God, nothing fits me," and so that is true. But that because of that, it doesn't mean that you stop the skill. It means that you adapt to what you can. You'll still get gain, and then when you make future purchase decisions, you keep this in mind. So you don't have to buy anything. You just have to start to use your mind and body in a way that's congruent with itself. And then keep your eye on the outcome, and then rely upon the support that you have to ask questions. So this might seem overly simple, but I know that, Einstein, I believe, is quoted as saying, if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough. And so the simplest way to delve into sitting is where the surfaces meet, and that's your power and control. And so I think that if you keep in mind, will serve you well. Okay, I don't think I have anything else right now, Gerard. I wanted to get it to
You had
about.
question answer, maybe?
Sure. If anybody have a question?
Can you stop to share and I will take the screen? I will take over the screen.
Sure.
Replay, share. And now we are in the PowerPoint. And now we are here. So thank you very much, Scott. I would like to know if anybody have any question in the assistance. We were 20 from South Africa, America, Spain, different states of America, Israel, UK. So we are different people from a little bit everywhere. So anybody have a question for Dr. Donkin? No? Nobody? Okay. And does anybody have learned anything? I have learned, and I spoke with Scott earlier today, because I say, how come since 25 years we know one each other, and you have been working in that field for, I don't know, 40, maybe more years. How come you only found that bone now? It's a surprise. So he said, look, I knew the bone exists. I have been making books for better position of the body, but I have never paid attention on the fact that sitting is a skill you can develop. And then I realized that that bone is pivotal. Not, it's, I would say, no pun intended, because when we pivot that bone, we pivot the whole body and we align with the head, and everything flows in a natural way. So we are not tired. So I want to thank you very much, Scott, for all your presentation. Next meeting will be, as usual, the fourth Thursday of every month. So it will be August 27, and we'll be happy to see you again. You can definitely see a recording on the Reswell VUCA link, and we'll be very happy to see you again. Thank you so much. Thank you, Scott, for you succeed to make it in 1 hour, actually. So it was very great. And I really think there is a lot of potential. And I wanted to have our colleague researcher to see how we can do validation, because now we have tools where we can measure fatigue, we can measure cognitive activities. I am very interested to compare and to make a study how the people perform in one position and how they perform in another position. And for that, this is a discussion we should take with our colleague who is not here, Dr. Leisman, because he has very, very good idea how we can measure the cognitive function, the clarity, based on the way we sit. Thank you so much, Scott, and see you next month, everybody. Have a good summer. Bye-bye.